you need to have a block. If you don't have a block, don't worry. If you've got a roll, so we use the rolled up yoga mat a lot in my classes. If you've got that, that will work as well. If you don't have that, but you have a bolster, then that's also a great deal for what we're working on today. This class, because of its gentler nature, I'm willing for you to really find what feels best for you for your starting position. You can lay down on your back, you can even lay down on your abdomen if that helps give you a sense of your lumbar spine, or stay seated. If you're sitting, my recommendation would be that you are sitting on a block to elevate the hips and take the pressure off of there. So the first portion of class is always to bring in your attention. And if, when you are doing that, you feel like you are spending a lot of your attention focused on the discomfort of sitting, and I think you're going to miss the entire point of what we're looking at. So choose a comfortable seat. It doesn't need to be fancy. It certainly doesn't need to be lotus-based in any way whatsoever. And then start to do a conscious breath. Now, if you know Ujjayi, I know we use that in a lot of classes. I don't want you to do Ujjayi yet. We will get to that. But for now, simply do a slightly deeper breath, bringing it and shifting it from an unconscious process to a conscious process. So we're doing an act of building awareness. So whether you are supine, seated, or prone, feel where the breath is moving to. If you've ever done Yoga Nidra before, the aim is to go through successive layers. So by doing deep breathing, you start to create a bit of movement, but then can you focus on that movement and feel where it isn't? So we're always chasing that deeper edge of awareness. So allow your senses to become occupied with what you're doing. If visually you are locking eyes at the screen, go ahead and close your eyes. Any moments in today's class where you don't need to be eyes fixed on the screen, take that. Now more than ever, our screen time is going up and up and up. If you don't need the visual dependence, then don't take it. I'm never going to move without telling you that we're moving. Start to bring in that Ujjayi whisper, engaging the throat muscles the same way that you would when whispering, so there is an audible quality to your breath. Do it without straining or struggling. And for those of you that are newer, you're going to have a very different frame of reference than those that maybe have done more classes. I don't want you to get too fixated on that element of it. But for many of you, when you reflect on what your practice was like when you started, there would have been poses that were really hard or a real challenge that now have become very easy. And it's very easy to forget when we get into poses now that are very difficult that there were poses previously that had the same sensation. We do that in the moment freak out. And I've been looking at a lot of classical mythology, like going down an absolute rabbit hole of different theories through different things. But one of the things that was my takeaway last week was this idea that there is the monster that we need, like the monster that will save us. And this comes from the myth of Medusa. So she was seen as this like vile monster, yet at the same time was meant to be very, very beautiful, but her gaze would turn you to stone. So while we have this negative, destructive side, her gift and her blood had the ability to revive the dead. So she had this way of simultaneously in one creature saving the world and being the doom of it. And we can see these paradoxes in our poses where they seem like infinitely challenging and that they're doing nothing but straining us and torturing us. But they offer us insight and wisdom and a way to really meter our energy as we move through. So I want you to see any of the poses today that we're doing, and this isn't me setting you up that it's going to be really hard. There will be poses that you identify as the monster. And I want you to instead shift that focus to see what it is that they're doing and seeing if there is the monster in the room that might save you. If you are supine or prone, bring yourself up from the ground with a relaxed neck. My seated people, you're going to stay seated, but go ahead and straighten your legs forwards. If you're sitting on the block, go ahead and come off of the block just to take some of the pressure off for now. I'm a big fan, before we really get into any hip stuff, to fully warm the hips up. Take your hands behind you so you've got a wee bit of support. Showing you this more side on, I call this like back brace. Bend the legs, so the legs are bent about 90 degrees. Anything shorter than that, then all the angles will start to work against you, the hips will feel super tight and won't move as far. Ideally open this out further. Take the feet mat distance apart. Now obviously I don't have a universal mat width measurement, so we may need to move this in a moment. Deep breath in, lift the chest. Exhale, send both legs over to the left and then polish up the angles so both legs are bent about 90 degrees. Inhale, bring the knees up through center. Exhale, send the knees over to the right. Perhaps having to move some of the props out of the way. Inhale, knees come up through center. Exhale, send the legs left. Let this move in an easy way. You're not trying to force anything right now, or at all. Inhale, bring the knees up through center. Exhale, send the knees to the right. Inhale, bring the knees through center. Now this time, exhale, legs go to the left. Bring that right hand so it's coming to the inside of the leg. And before you take the weight anywhere considerable, press down through that left leg. Inhale to lift the chest and start to lean forwards over that leg. So we're going for a little bit of something. If you feel a lot of pressure on that left hip, it might be a padding thing. It might need to have an extra folded yoga mat, or if you've got a blanket handy, maybe you're using that. Inhale, bring yourself up, bring the knees back through center. So I start my day with these a lot, most days. Exhale, send the legs over to the right. That left arm is coming around. Press down through your right leg so you feel that definite pressure. Inhale, lift your chest up. Exhale, lean forwards. I just had to quickly move as Amy decided he was going to take out the computer system. Inhale, bring yourself up through center and bring the knees back through middle. Now I'm going to do this facing you, but I still want you to be, well, side on, however you are. Deep breath in. Exhale, actively widen both knees. So think the feet are staying fixed as if they're a fixed part of the legs, and opening the knees wide, getting into the hips. Inhale, bring the knees through center. Instead of going outwards a second time, exhale, turn the knees inwards. This is a very limited range of motion, so don't panic if it doesn't feel very much. Inhale, bring the knees up. Exhale, rotate out. Feet are active, toes spreading. Inhale, bring the knees up. Exhale, rotate the legs inwards. Inhale, bring it up. Okay, switch towards a easy enough cross-legged position. If your low back feels like it scoops under even slightly in this exercise, or even now, I strongly recommend sitting on a block. It will take the pressure off. And if you're thinking, oh, but we've just warmed up our lower back, we haven't warmed it up that much. In your cross-legged position, aim to get your left foot flat so you can hold on to your left thigh, ideally holding with both hands. Bring that knee up into your chest. So being on a block will make the whole thing just easier to access from a height point of view. I'm gonna keep switching around. I wish I had like some clicker where I could like switch to camera too, but alas, I do not. Pull with the arms and lift the chest up. You might find when you start to work the leg that the thigh moves away from the ribs or that the back rounds, so one of them will probably move. I want you to focus on a lifting up through the low spine, and when the leg starts to straighten, it probably won't straighten, realistically. I want you to keep the knee close to the chest as if it was a love story as old as time between knee and nipple. Deep breath in, exhale, extend the legs. This is where you start to see the effects of me spending a lot of time alone. Inhale, bend the leg. Exhale, extend the left leg. So the thigh stays really close to the ribs, the leg may not straighten. Inhale, bend it. Exhale, work the leg straighter. So we're starting to switch on your quadriceps, getting used to being in this sort of compressed hip flexor position. Exhale, work the leg straighter. Inhale, bend it. All right, change legs. If you've ever done one of Alan's bar classes, you kind of get a feel for these. I was about to say he calls them devil pays. Everybody in ballet calls them devil pays. It's that kind of feel. Bring the right knee into your chest, hold it close to your ribs. Exhale, work the leg straighter. So it may not straighten, and that's fine. Inhale, bend. Exhale, work the leg straighter. Inhale, bend. Exhale, work the leg straighter, shoulders down, lift through low spine. Inhale, bend. So remember, we're not really warmed up those hamstrings yet, we're just kind of playing with them just now. Exhale, work that leg straighter. Inhale, bend. Okay, this time definitely come off of that block. Pardon me as Amy takes his blanket outfit across the room. Send your legs straight forwards. Hi pal, can you lie down? He'll get there. Okay, hopefully he won't block your view for too much longer. There you go, he's down. So left leg is straight forwards. Bring the right foot in towards your inner thigh. So go for a single leg forward bend. You're going to put your roll, your block, your bolster, whatever you've got, underneath your left leg. So you might find if you've got a roll instead of a block, that might feel more comfortable. Instead of pulling the flesh away from your butt, which is an altogether strange gesture, pick your butt up and put it back down and get your chest and your hips facing straight towards that leg. Use your fingertips behind you. Inhale, lift the chest up. Take as much bend in that left leg as you need, and then exhale, lean forward so you're bringing the ribs almost in contact with that left thigh. Now, hands behind gives you really good leverage because it's pressing you forwards and allowing you to create a really good lift through your low back. Some of you might find taking your hands onto the props or onto your calf, you can draw yourself forwards. Maybe taking the arms forward so that you can relax a little bit here. This pose for now is not to be about straining. If you find your head is coming down towards your knee, inhale to scoop the ribs forwards and up. So actually you're kind of leaning the head more towards the foot. Now you might find you reach a point where you are fully right up against the monster and any more information is just going to be way too much, and that's fine. If there's still a wee bit more wiggle room, focus on, without lifting that left sit bone, the left sit bone drawing back and sticking your butt out. And seeing what that does for the articulation in the pelvis and that seal of ribs towards thigh. Now, if you've done some of my forest stuff or any forest yoga stuff, you might have heard about relaxed neck. I don't want you to treat that as a dropped head. Posturally, that's leading to a lot of other complications. Feel for a lifting up through the back of the skull as if somebody was drawing you forwards by the crown of your head. Inhale, bring yourself up. In this position, left leg is staying as it is. Use your hands to assist in opening your pelvis towards the side of the mat. So if you think about the hip positions, that was kind of warrior one earlier, now we're kind of opening towards this lateral warrior two position. You probably need to pick your butt up and put it back down again. This right leg, it doesn't matter where it is. It can be further away, it can be closer in, so long as the knee is comfortable. You might even want some support underneath that right leg. Inhale, lift up through your left arm and focus on lifting through the left low ribs. Exhale, lean the ribs towards the leg, bringing either the forearm onto the shin or onto the thigh, and the right arm is coming up and over. These are poses that we are going to meet in numerous iterations today, so just get a wee think about how they're working and what they're doing. Inhale, lift up through right side ribs. Exhale, wrap the right shoulder blade towards the underarm and lengthen out through that right side. If you're getting any aggro with the side bend, you're thinking like, okay, in this side bend, is it really all hamstring or is it mostly back and hips that we're looking at? You can take that left leg to a simple cross-legged and focus on the side bend element if the single leg part is the part giving you some aggravation. So I always like to think in the pose, like, what is its purpose? Like, if it was to have any good from it, what would it be? What is the priority? And that's what I do in a lot of my teacher trainings. I get people to identify, like, what is the priority? Like, you've told them to activate their hand, but you don't, everything else is a mess. What's the priority focus? Okay, now coming up, inhale to reach with that right arm towards the back of your mat to bring your torso up. Okay, changing sides. Switch the legs around. Going back from, instead of facing the side, pelvis is facing forwards. Bring the left leg in and then snuggle that roll or block behind the right leg. Same as the other version. If cross-legged forward bend feels like a better option for you, maybe cross-legged is less hamstring restrictive, you're welcome to do that. Right leg is pretty bent. Toes are pointing up. Inhale, lift up so you feel you're atop the sit bones. Even being upright here can be a challenge for tight hamstrings. You're welcome to stay here. Or exhale, press with your hands to lean your chest forwards, focusing on the ribs, coming closer to the thighs, and then lengthening the back of the neck. Maybe taking the arms forwards. If your arms are forwards, don't get too hung up on whether you are touching your foot or not. It is it's a bit of a redundant gesture. I mean, touching your toes, I don't know, maybe that's some people's pinnacle, but it doesn't really add anything. If you're able to hold your foot and do some of the pulling work that we've worked on for the last few weeks in these classes, then yeah, go for it. Wherever you are, do an exhale until you are completely empty. For the duration of your inhale, focus on lifting up through your low front ribs, scooping the collarbones away from your low ribs, and lengthening through your neck. Shoulders are drawing down away from the ears, engaging into your lats, side body is assisting you with this. Without moving necessarily, draw the right sit bone back and endeavor to stick your butt out. So I think we've not done any like cat exercises or anything yet, so that amount of movement isn't going to be vast yet. We'll get there. Inhale, bring yourself up. Moving into the single leg seated side bend, open the hips over to the side. So you might find that now you're facing the side of your mat to whatever degree you can. Pick the pelvis up and put it back down, and definitely make sure that right sit bone is down. It loves to sit up here, and when you come into the side bend, that whole side will feel really scrunched up. Ideally, sit bone is down. If not, play with where does that right leg need to be. Maybe it needs to be bent in to create a really good side bend position for you. Inhale, lift up through the right ribs, lift the right ribs away from pelvis. Exhale, lean in towards that right leg, either forearm onto your thigh or onto your lower leg, wherever you can get a wee bit of support. Inhale, bring the left arm up and over for side bend. Palm faces down. Exhale, wrap that left shoulder blade towards the underarm. So the palm faces down. If you still feel like you need support, especially if you feel like you're falling backwards, that right hand can always come out almost like the third leg of a stool to give you a wee bit of extra support. Left leg is still up. Stay in the pose. Inhale to lift up through left side low ribs. Exhale, draw shoulders and shoulder blades down. Coming up, inhale to reach with that left arm to bring the torso up, and then bring the legs around. Oh, okay. So single leg side bend start class. Hui, can be tough. You're moving down for supine versions of the same pose. I want to show you one piece, just so we have that in our heads before we come down to it. You'll be doing that knee to chest that we were doing earlier with the quadricep extensions to see what is different and what's moved. And then once you find an interesting edge, which probably won't be a straight leg, let's be honest, then the other leg is going to start to do a reach and in. Now, back sensitive. If that leg passes 45 degrees roughly and you feel the pelvis starting to go, I would rather you only went to the point where the pelvis is not moving. So you're coming up using hip and abdominals rather than the pelvis spilling towards the front of the mat and irritating the back by going into that really strained place. So you have to play a bit sensibly with this one. Okay, don't come down onto your back. Make sure you've got enough space at the front of your mat. You're not going to kick anything when you go straight leg. And bring your left knee into your chest. Draw the thigh in towards your ribs. And get that left knee and ribs very close together. The tendency is that the pelvis curls up from the mat here. Actively press down through your pelvis. So it's the action of sticking your butt out. Deep breath in. Exhale, work that left leg straighter. It might not straighten. Inhale, bend. Exhale, work that left leg straighter. Inhale, bend. Exhale, work the leg straighter. Inhale, bend it. Exhale, work the leg straighter. Inhale, bend it. Exhale, work the leg straighter. Now pause. Now you might be keeping the grip where it is, maybe working the hand up onto the calf, ankle, perhaps even the foot, wherever feels like a sensible and economical place to hold on. It's not going to tire you out too much. Take the right leg straight up towards the ceiling. Get a feel for how the pelvis is on the mat. That's what we're looking to maintain. Inhale, reach the right leg towards the front of the mat. You might feel the pelvis getting challenged a little bit. Exhale, take the leg straight back up towards the ceiling. Inhale, reach the leg towards the front of the mat. Now that right leg may also be bent. Exhale, bring the leg up. Inhale, reach that right leg away. Exhale, bring it up. Inhale, reach the leg long. Exhale, bring it up. Now this time, bend your right leg, put it on the floor, and slide the right foot towards the front of your mat, flexing the foot. This is giving us a very different interpretation of this pose. This is a splits on the back pose. Hold the left leg with the left hand. So it's either going to be behind the knee, the calf, the ankle, or the outside of the foot, wherever you can get a good reach. And take your right hand out to the right. The pelvis is going to stay flat. Exhale, open the left leg out to the left. Endeavoring that your thigh is moving in relation to your pelvis rather than your pelvis moving in relation to your back. It is very possible to topple over here. I've got these lovely new house plants here that if I topple over, I will be fully murdered later. So it's good encouragement for me to keep my pelvis level. I'm not saying that you find anything that your partner may appreciate you not destroying and have it as encouragement. Not going to be the best thing to work with. Inhale, bring that left leg back up through center. So notice it was very similar to our side bend and forward bend. Release the left leg. Before doing the second side, because it's a lot of supine extension work, bring the feet in for bridge, feet hip distance apart. Draw your shoulders down away from your ears. And if you've done bridge with me before, you know that there's the option to put props at the inner thighs, either roll or block. If that is your preference, I always prefer with. Exhale, press into your feet, curl tailbone towards the ceiling and lift your pelvis up. Use this time, elevated, to connect to the strength of your legs differently. And this might be one of these poses that back at the start of your practice, like way back, whenever that was, the bridge was a real challenge for you. And now, maybe you feel a sense of strength and familiarity there. I distinctly remember people in years ago, 8 breaths was a real triumph if it was accomplished, whereas now 40 breaths and they're still asking for more. So these poses can shift from monster to savior very quickly. Now slowly starting to come down, exhale, lower down through the shoulders, mid back, low back, and then pelvis. Bring the right knee into your chest. With the right leg in, get the thigh working pretty close to your ribs. Left foot is flat for now. Take a moment, right side of pelvis lifts to kind of squeeze up towards your right ribs. Lengthen right side low back. Working those leg extensions. Knee is close to ribs. Exhale, gradually work on extending that right leg. Remember, it probably won't straighten and that's fine. Inhale, bend the leg. If your leg is straightening, has the thigh moved away from the ribs? Exhale, work that leg straighter. Inhale, bend. Exhale, work the leg a little straighter. Inhale, bend it. Exhale, work the leg straighter. One more. Inhale, bend. Exhale, work it straighter. Now you might be keeping the grip exactly where it is. Maybe you're holding onto the calf, the ankle, the foot. Send the left leg straight up towards the ceiling. Your straight up might be knee above hip and leg bent, and that's fine. Press down through your pelvis. Inhale, reach the left leg long towards the front of the mat. Exhale, pike that leg up. Inhale, send the left leg long. Exhale, bring the leg up. Inhale, send that left leg long. Exhale, lift. 2 more. Inhale, send the leg away. Exhale, lift. Inhale, send the leg away. Exhale, lift. Inhale, set the left leg so the heel is down on the floor and start to straighten that leg towards the front of your yoga mat. Now, it may not straighten, that's fine. Your grip on that right leg is going to stay where it is. Maybe it's the calf, the ankle, the foot. Left arm opens out to the left. Pelvis stays flat. Exhale, open that right leg out to the right. So thinking almost like that side bend like mobility that we were working earlier on. As you work here, left hip loves to lift, press down. You might even feel like changing your grip to more the calf of the ankle will allow you to put your right elbow down to better deal with the weight of the leg, because it's a heavy leg, Inhale, bring that right leg back into center. Set the feet back down to the floor and roll onto your left hand side. Use your arms to come up from the ground and use the left hand on the side of the head and bring your head up. So we were just working on those quadricep extensions, thinking more of a knee straight in towards the chest. But when we enter the straddle range, it goes a wee bit out to the side. We're going to find a halfway house. We are going to be back down on our backs. So this time it's going to be almost like a knee to underarm kind of a feel. So this is dead bug. If you find when you get down for dead bug that it is too challenging, then work one leg at a time. We're going to do 6 leg extensions all together. If you're doing one leg at a time, 3 and 3 would be great. I think doing one leg at a time has the potential to be stronger, but I'll show you kind of what I mean with that. So if you're doing single leg dead bug, I recommend, because you're doing single leg, you work with one foot flat. Otherwise, legs straight and on the floor is actually going to be harder than I think doing both legs in dead bug. Come on, Abby, get a move on. And then using your exhale to extend the leg, notice the thigh doesn't go up to the ceiling. It's thinking the knee stays close to the ribs and the leg is extending that way before coming back in, with the eventual aim of the foot kind of touching down to the floor either side of your head. Doesn't need to be this morning though. Okay, bring your knees up into your chest. Hands are holding to the outsides of the feet. If you're doing single leg, then put the right foot flat down to the floor for now. So especially if dead bug itself presents its own challenges. Press your pelvis into the yoga mat. Deep breath in. Exhale, start to straighten both legs, or if you're doing one leg at a time, you're doing one leg at a time, but without the pelvis curling up. Inhale, bend. Exhale, work the legs straighter. Don't get too hung up on how straight they're actually going. Inhale, bend. I think, especially if it's early for you, this is one of the most difficult ranges to access. Exhale, work the legs straighter. If you're doing one leg at a time, swap to the other leg. Exhale, work the legs straighter. Inhale, bend. Exhale, work the legs straighter. Inhale, bend. One more. Exhale, work the legs straighter. Inhale, bend. Okay, roll to your left. Use your arms to come up from the ground. Left hand on the side of the head brings your head up. Come on to all fours. So from all fours, don't panic. It's nothing vastly exciting, no great big huge movements. But once you are there, push the floor away from you. Give yourself that little bit of work into the upper back you've not had yet. Turn the hands outwards, so your middle fingers are pointing to a 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. I suppose that could mean that your fingers are pointing inwards. So they're pointing outwards, for sure. Press the floor away from you, and then start to shift yourself from side to side. Grip the floor with the fingertips so you feel the base of the fingers are down. If this feels like it's really weird in your wrists, take your hands wider still. So you might find it's only the heel of your hands that are on the ground. So I'll show you this more front on. So you're moving side to side. Now do this with the shoulder blades drawn back, so shoulder blades retracted and shifting from side to side. It just creates a bit of a useful freeing up of some of the really stuck stuff in the upper back and the mid back. Then, without being too restricted with your movement, explore lifting up and coming down at different moments while shifting from side to side. So it might be that you're making like a figure of 8 loop, it might be you're going from diagonals. But essentially, get yourself moving your shoulders around in ways that they probably haven't moved, maybe even forwards and back, so playing with some elevation and depression at the same time, simply to get them moving before they start to take a wee bit of weight. And it is a wee bit, it's not going to be great but huge, but still, you might find that even things like down dog require a little bit of preparation. Okay, bring yourself up from there, make your hands into, well, clasp your hands, make your hands into clasp your hands. My grasp of the English language is failing me today. Bring your elbows so they touch, so elbows and forearms are together. Now, I always see people do this and their forearms are together, but their elbows are not. See if you can get your elbows towards each other. Begin to make big, luxurious circles with your hands. I almost like to think that I'm holding like a very delicate parasol and I'm spinning it around my head because I'm having a bit of a drama moment outside. Everybody can relate. It's a very fine lace parasol. All right, now go the other way. The other way always feels a little bit odd. Ideally, elbows and forearms are staying pretty close together. If it feels like it's confused your forearms, great, that's kind of the idea. All right, and then release the hands. Anything that can get those forearm bones articulating a wee bit differently. And you're coming into down dog, but with a difference and a callback to where we were earlier. Coming to a tabletop, but leave space at the front of your mat. So obviously this tabletop isn't the full measurement of our dog. Take the hands forwards about 6 inches. Hands are shoulder width, if not wider. Before you go fully into down dog, take a wee bend in your elbows so they point to the outsides of your mat. And then spin the elbows so they point back towards your knees without changing where your hands are. So if you change where your hands are, you've kind of moved a wee bit too much. Inhale, lift between your shoulder blades before you lift your knees. Exhale, shift your hips back towards your heels, so you're creating that forward bend, and then tuck the toes, lifting the knees up. Step your feet mat distance apart, and then turn the toes out about 25 to 45 degrees. So it really depends on the flexibility of the hips. Inhale. Bend your legs a lot, so you're thinking about knees coming towards underarms, so it's basically dead bug. Exhale, press the legs straighter, hips go back up. Inhale, bend the legs. Ideally push with your hands so you feel the weight is in your legs. Exhale, press the legs straighter. Inhale, bend the legs, hips are coming down. Exhale, press. Inhale, bend the legs. Exhale, press. All right, now turn the feet back through parallel. Inhale, shimmy yourself forward, so you're coming into more of a plank position, and allow the hips to come down, pelvis touches down, and then bend the elbows. You kind of slither your way down. So that is technically not a chaturanga, so if you know that I always say this class doesn't have chaturanga, that definitely didn't. It's more of a ripple down affair. Get your elbows so they are under your shoulders, so a wee bit of a wriggle from where you were. Tuck the toes and rotate the thighs in. So think knees turn straight down towards the ground, both legs, but feet are definitely hip distance apart. So this is a highly evolved snake with 2 legs. Tuck your tailbone towards your heels and press down through the tops of your feet. You should feel that there's enough engagement that the kneecaps hover from the mat. So it's kind of like the push that you're looking for with the feet. With your arms, pull with them. It's not a great big huge movement. Pull enough that you feel there is a forward-like movement in the chest and lift up through the back of your skull. For now, this is it, right? So if you're looking around and be like, what are we doing, what are we doing? This is it, this is plenty. I couldn't chat about Medusa and then not have like a snake-based pose in here. Those of you like, what's he talking about? Snakes for hair. There you go. Although there is some debate about whether she had snakes in her hair or whether she had snakes for hair. Very much depends on your translation, folks. Deep breath in, exhale, bend your left leg, depends who you talk to. Left arm is reaching back for that foot. Now this one's going to come as a bit of a surprise, the quadriceps stretch. If you cannot reach, you can twist more to reach back. That might make it more accessible because you work with the length of your chest and collarbones, and ease that heel in. Aim to get a bit of a quadriceps stretch. If you've got like a spare yoga strap, dog lead, towel, anything, you might use that to get a hold of that foot if that's useful. Now, one of the actions we've not done a lot today, tuck your tailbone down. So you can sort of like point your butt towards your feet, that's kind of tuck tailbone neutral. See if you can tuck your tailbone towards the floor, so really tuck tailbone down, to get a wee bit extra in that left quadricep. This will affect your forward bends later. Inhale, release that left leg, set the left forearm down. Any niggles from the back, take the elbows further forwards. This doesn't need to be done in such a big back bend if it feels really growly. Exhale, bend your right leg. Right arm is reaching back for that foot. Now I usually like to do a flexed foot because then some of the tendons and the front of the ankle, if you just hook your fingers, you don't need to do your whole grip. So if you're able to see my hand, you can see I've not curled my wrist around to tax my forearms. It's just a finger hook and then bending the elbow. I have learned over the years that my grip tires the fastest in my yoga practice and then easy grip when possible is always better for me. As you work here, pull with that left arm and then tuck your tailbone towards your heels. For those of you who've got any like tweaky lower backs, I strongly recommend getting this pose into the diet because quadriceps tighten up, especially if you know your pelvis loves to curl under, those quads get super short. If you've got knee stuff, push back against the leg. So think push the right foot away as you do the heel to butt. Inhale, release the leg, use your hands under your shoulders. Now, you're going to do something serpentine, but of course, bring the hands back so your hands are under your elbows. So if you've got your hands under your shoulders, those are not elbows, take them further back. In this position, slide your shoulder blades up towards your ears, and then roll your shoulder blades back. And this should bring your chest up a wee bit. Okay, so instead of chest down, shoulders down, roll those shoulders up. This is the position for Cobra. And all you can see now is Annie. But his tail is curved like your back should be. Take a deep breath in, exhale, come up onto like an all fours and shift back. So you slither back towards a child's pose. I realize that the dog totally got in the way for that. So you definitely get it. Inhale, do the same position but slither forward. So you're really close to the floor, getting to that elbows above wrists place, so still technically not a chaturanga. Exhale, press back, so you're pressing with the hand and trying to slither back to get that extra wee articulation in the hips. Okay, great, it was only meant to be one of those. Thanks, Amy. Inhale, bring the shoulders more above the wrists. Downward facing dog. Exhale. From down dog, bend your knees, walk your hands back towards your feet. So really trying to get the feet to go flat first and then leaning back. Bend the legs enough that you can bring your forearms onto your thighs. It's like a wee squat. The sooner you get the heels down, the easier it's going to be for you to balance. Lengthen the skull forwards, stick your butt out. Now the action here, on the inhale, push through your feet, scoop the chest forward so you stand and the hips come forwards last. So rather than rolling up or rippling up, you're definitely going with that bent-legged affair. Inhale, reach the arms up. Forward bend. Exhale, bend the legs, bring the hands down. Back tweaky, maybe you're doing forearms on thighs. Halfway lift. Inhale, scoop the ribs forward, so either fingers down or the halfway lift is still forearms on thighs. Forward bend, exhale. Down dog. Inhale, walk your hands forward, so you're back in that dog. Exhale, press the hips back. Inhale, set the knees down. Exhale, press your hips towards your heels. That cobra slither. Inhale, slide forwards, chest is getting close to the floor. Try not to get my microphone on the floor. And scoop into that cobra. Exhale, press back towards that child's pose. We're kind of sliding forwards and back, but avoiding chaturangas. Inhale, shoulders lift almost towards tabletop. Downward dog. Exhale. Take a wee bend in the knees. Inhale, walk your hands back towards your feet, so thinking heels are down. Forward bend. Exhale, remember that can be back traction, forearms on thighs. Inhale, scoop your chest forward, so you're coming up, not through a flat back, but through an arched upwards back. Bring the arms up. Exhale, bring hands together at chest. So it is a very modified, very odd sun salutation. Inhale, bring the arms up. We'll call it the supernova salutation because it sounds very fancy. Forward bend. Exhale. Half lift. Inhale, lengthen the ribs forwards, lengthen through the back of the skull. Forward bend. Exhale. Inhale, pad the hands forward, so hands are walking forwards but very gently. Exhale, press the hips back. Inhale, knees go down. Exhale, press the hips back towards the heels, more like a child's pose. Inhale, cobra glide forwards, chest is pulling forwards, arms are pulling you forwards. Just try not to get your face on the floor. Exhale, press back towards that child's pose. So some real strong push-pull actions. Inhale, come up towards a modified tabletop. Downward dog. Exhale, so modified because it was a wee bit long for the other one. Set your knees down momentarily. I recommend you put a block or whatever props you happen to have. So it's between where your hands were in your tabletop. And then step your left foot outside that block. So left foot is just to the insides of your left hand. Moving into a pyramid forward bend. With your left leg bent, set up your right foot so it's at about a 3 foot length, lengthways, and 1 foot hip width. So if you've got any mat with markers on it, you usually have a mat kind of near the left side and the right side. You want to be on both of those lines. Bend your left leg a ton, like a ton. Like if your leg is straight and you're like, look at me, my leg's straight, bend it. Put your ribs on your left leg and maybe have your hands on the block. So if you watch my spine just now, this is where I can get my spine to with my hands on the block. My hands are on the floor is definitely rounding. So you might find that your back appreciates the length. Right toes are angled towards the upper right corner of the mat. Inhale, hover your left ribs from your thigh and scoop your chest forwards. Exhale, press into your left foot and start to work the left leg straighter. So just enough that you recreate some of that forward bend sensation from earlier. Inhale, scoop the ribs towards the front of the mat, including in that the back of the neck, doing a wee bit of a lift and a little bit of a chin tuck. Now the left leg was doing a push. We're going to change the dynamic a bit. If your hands are not under your shoulders and they're forwards of that, it's not giving you a very stable base. Get the hands right underneath the shoulders, whether they're on the block or not, and begin to pull the left foot towards the back of the mat. So this should be a real game changer in the sensations. Your hip flexors may start to fire up a little bit, but that's kind of the idea actually. Alright, now pause, take the pressure off, let the pose go a little bit soft. At the minute, your left foot is on the left hand half of your mat. You're going to step your right foot to the left, so your feet are in line with each other, and then parallel the back foot. So left toes point forwards, right toes are turned to the right. This is giving us the same opening we had at the start of class. Left hand is either on the block or on your left shin. Inhale, open that right arm to the sky for triangle. So this is our third iteration of this pose, this lateral side bend. Inhale, lengthen the left ribs forwards. If you're looking for more opening through the right side ribs, exhale to reach that right arm overhead, lengthening through right side ribs. This might be enough if your back is really growly to make the back even growlier, so you may appreciate hand up or even hand on low back. Many poses are taught in a way that advocates a flattening of the back. If your back is really grumpy here, actually very slightly stick your butt out, and this should fire up the back of the left leg and allow you to feel for a neutral spine. This pose can also be done as high up as is necessary to help the low back be in more of a traction. So left hand wedged into the left hip, I can still feel all those sensations in the inside of that left leg without any back aggravation. Inhale, turn the chest, bend the left leg, so find that softness in the transition, and then step that leg back. So this doesn't need to be fancy, there's no half salutation or anything like that. Bring the right foot forwards. So it can be as clunky as it needs to be. Don't think because like the word flow might be in the title that you have to like make everything like a gorgeous, exquisite flow that will make grown men weep. So right toes are down, feet are tracking hip distance. Right leg is going to stay bent as you set up for triangle. So length of the stance is about 3 feet. Left toes angle towards the upper left corner of the mat. Hands are either on the block, they might be on the floor. Draw your right hip back so it feels like your hips are somewhat level. And then start to press into that right foot. So this is a push with the right foot while lengthening the ribs forwards. Now depending on your room setup, for me I'm like really close to the windowsill, but I'm also really close to this cabinet. Sometimes having the hands down on the block isn't high enough. And actually taking the hands further up onto something, if there is something, it might mean you have to crawl closer to the thing. But I am one, if you've ever been to an in-studio class, I am one for using every prop and every available surface that we have. It is not unknown to come in and require an actual shopping list to get everything you need for class. And I cannot wait until that happens again. I cannot wait. Now switching the dynamic in that front foot, pull the right foot towards the back of the mat. So it's not moving anywhere, you're not stepping it. Press down into it and feel for pulling the heel towards the back of the mat. Back sensitive, if that rounded your low spine and you've started to curl, then do less of that. All right, you're still gonna get the hamstrings firing up. It just doesn't need to be a full spinal arc. You're still gonna get the hamstrings, for sure. You probably noticed that. Okay, stage 2, soften the pose a wee bit. Left foot is going to step over to that right hand line. So if you drew a line from your right foot, it would go through the left arch. Right hand is down on a block. Aim to get your pelvis turning to face that left side of the mat. Inhale, reach the left arm up. So in triangle, you might be working with that right leg straight. It certainly doesn't need to if it helps you get that right hip coming under. Right hand on the ground might be useful to you. It might mean that you have to come further up. If you are using objects that you've got kicking about the house, then it might even be right arm is resting onto a surface that helps you get some lift in the ribs. I'm all for varying poses. If you're looking for the side bend, bring that left arm up and over so the palm faces down. Left arm up, if you're thinking, oh, this is not feeling good in the shoulder, you need to think, like, what is this adding to the pose? Is it giving you more for your legs? Probably not, well, definitely not. So put the hand wherever it needs to be that you can be more comfortable, like we did at the start. So a lot of people really don't like triangle, especially its twin brother, twisting triangle. But this might be more the pose you need rather than the pose you want. Inhale, bring the hands down, soften that left knee, and then shift the weight towards your heels. Okay, so you're sitting up from here. We have reached a point where there is a choice point. You really get to choose where you go with this. So you're either going to be standing and working this as a balance. If you know that your hips get really growly with that stuff, then you are welcome to come back into the supine. If you think, oh, what a cop out, I'm just doing the same pose twice, it is wonderful to do the same pose a second time when you have done many other things, because you can explore the differences in a short-ish period of time. So you're either going to be navigating this as a standing pose, which is either knee to chest and opening to the side, or like big toe hold pose and out to the side. It's not this one, that's just stylish, I suppose. So your aim is that the hips are level, or repeating that, maybe even using a strap, or going deeper than you went earlier, doing big toe hold on the back and opening out to the side. This is still a very useful pose on the back, especially if you're working with the legs perhaps a little bit straighter than where they were initially. So we have a choice point. So either stand or be seated. So see what feels good. If you're standing, shift the weight onto your left leg and bring the right knee into your chest. If you are supine, bring the right knee into your chest. If you're laying on your back, left foot flat might give you a better brace against the floor than legs straight, so see what works. I like to take my right arm to the inside of the leg, but hold the outside of the foot. Traditionally, it's kind of taught more as a big toe hold. See how that works for the rotations of the ankles. I find it easier holding the outside of the foot. Without bending the other leg, gradually work that right leg straighter. If you're standing, it takes an inordinate amount of time to get that leg straight. Like, I had already been doing yoga for years and teaching yoga for 2 years before that leg straightened in the first place. And as usual, with such personal triumphs, there was nobody there to see it. Stage 2, exhale, open the leg out to the side. So make sure it's not the pelvis changing in relation to the back, but the thigh changing position in relation to the pelvis. That's a very different deal. If you're doing the standing one, you could take the other arm out to the side as a counterbalance, or I'm a big fan of stretching the arm overhead to get that telescoping up in the ribs. I always feel like that feels like a good move. Wherever you are, go ahead and change legs. Standing people, it is harder work than you might think. Like all the muscles that are stabilizing are working very hard. Bring the left knee up, holding onto the foot, the outside of the foot. If you're working on the ground, maybe you're using a strap to do that. Standing people, this leg, it will be not just this leg, it might try and rotate outwards. Aim for it to be pretty straightforward. Exhale, work that leg straighter. If you have pushed your pelvis forwards in the standing option to straighten that leg, that's compromised your stability somewhat. Straighten the bottom leg as well. Supine folks, shoulders away from the ears. Yes, you're on the ground, there's more support, but the shoulders can still overcompensate. Stage 2, exhale, open that left leg out to the left. Maybe you've got the right arm out to the right, maybe right arm is overhead. Floor people, you might need to brace the right hand on the hip to stop the weight toppling the pose over, as it is so wont to do. Inhale, release that standing leg. If you're standing, come to sitting. If you're supine, stay supine. So my seated folks, bring yourself down onto your back. We're repeating dead bug to give you an exploration of how those hamstrings are. So for dead bug, see if you can go no-handed. Exhale, bring the knees towards your armpits and send the soles of the feet towards the ceiling. So this is hands-free for now. Then take a hold of either the big toes, maybe the pinky edges of the feet. Draw down through the feet, but emphatically press down through your pelvis. Shoulders down away from your ears. This might be where you stay, perhaps starting to work the legs straighter. Now, straddle flexibility, I think, is one of the slowest ones to make any meaningful change. So if you're thinking, oh wow, I was expecting more than that, don't set it that way. This is a really slow burner. This is like the question you need to prep a long time for. And even then, it's not really going to it's not going to change a great deal. So explore how this is feeling. If your pelvis is starting to curl up from the ground, go ahead and press your pelvis down into the mat to get that extra length through the back. Doing a bit of a press down through the back of the skull will also posturally help lengthen out through the spine. Just make sure it doesn't go to the point that you're straining or you even cramp underneath your chin. Like that one is the worst one. Inhale, release the legs, set the feet to the floor, or bring your knees into your chest, whichever gives you a better sense of relief from where we've been working. Your next pose is Shavasana, final relaxation pose, a pose that does not necessarily involve your hamstrings unless you wish it to. So some options, if the couch is there, you can do legs up the couch, which is, now an official pose, where you bend the legs so the calves are on the couch and the thighs are against one edge of it. Legs up the wall would be a great shout with the class that we've done so far. So for legs up the wall, the pelvis is about an inch away from the wall, heels rest there. And this is great for getting that sort of 90-degree edge kind of in between the thighs and the pelvis, normalizing. The pelvis might actually be able to get towards a neutral position rather than a curled position there. Just see what feels sensible. If after forward bends and side bends, which we have done a lot of, the back feels really growly, then lay down on your abdomen. That might give you that wee bit of a back bend, similar to Cobra, but a very low Cobra that we had earlier. To choose a comfortable position. Begin to deepen your breath. Start with that slower breath, just slightly deeper, feeling what is moving, what maybe needs a little extra attention today. Start to employ that ujjayi whisper sound, but in a softer way. Gradually begin to make movements into fingers and toes. If you've got your legs up, bring the knees into the chest. If you're laying on your back, you can set the feet to the floor or bring these into the chest also. Prone people, if you use your hands and press towards more of a child's pose, you'll also get that knees to chest. From wherever you are, taking care not to disturb this sort of Shavasana calm that you have, bring yourself up towards a seated position. Once you're up, maybe you're taking some props, maybe some additional things underneath your hips to get seated. Bring your hands together at chest. Take the hands a little forward so the elbows can relax down a little bit. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, bow forwards. Namaste.